On today's Random Land adventure, we take in the sights, sounds, and smells of old Paris. That's right, in France. And see what it's really like hanging out in the City of Lights. Spoiler alert, it's cold, but it's wonderful. Well, good morning, or should I say, bonjour. Now that back there, it's a sight for sore eyes. We're back in France, or I guess I really should say, en France. I told myself I wasn't going to come down to the Eiffel Tower to start my day, but how can I help it? I was irresistibly drawn hither like it's some sort of beacon. I mean, it is a 1,000-foot-plus tall tower after all. And there's nothing quite like that back home in Anaheim, California. Hard to believe it's been 3 years since I've laid eyes on the Seine. And hard to believe that no matter how many times I come back to France, and no matter how long it's been in between, I find coming down to this part of Paris and staring at the Eiffel Tower absolutely riveting. Now, it's gray and soggy and cold in Paris this morning, and why not? It is January after all. And I am, how you say, beaucoup tired and jet lagged. But apparently that makes no difference. When the Eiffel Tower is walking a distance away, no excuse will suffice. You've got to take that walk, climb up these steps, and get that money shot. Wow, look at that. Just like all these other people, by the way. Look at them. Even in the earliest freezing cold hours of the morning, the early bird doesn't get the worm all to himself. Wow. Incredible. So what am I doing in France again, you might be asking yourself? Well, I'm asking myself that question too. I'm actually here just for a couple of days, just for a few minutes it feels like, to hang out with a friend from this side of the Atlantic who hasn't been back to the United States in 3 years. Kind of like the international equivalent of helping somebody move. I'm over here just to meet up, pack up, and head back. And I'm probably the only person that came through customs to Paris, maybe the gourmet capital of the world, with all his own food packed in his suitcases. But of course I have celiac disease and can't eat much over here because most French food revolves around bread. In fact, even the pigeons are enjoying some gluten right now. But although I can't feed my stomach with French bread and baguettes, I can feed my soul and my eyes with the sights, sounds, and smells. Oh, and believe me, there's a lot of smells of Paris. Whew, I'm soaking that in. I'm also soaking in the frigid, freezing temperatures out here. Now, unfortunately, my fiance, Allie, could not come with me this time. She just started school again after all her surgeries. So I'm on my own today with maybe even just one day in the city. I don't know yet, which makes it even more important to take in all the sights that I can, even if it's a site I've taken in before in the past. And I have to admit, it's a great view of the city, but I hope to see some more. Look at that, just to the left of the Eiffel Tower. You see that golden dome back there? That's L'Invalides. That's Napoleon's tomb over there. As in the Napoleon, the little guy with his hand in his coat. There's a lot of sites like that I've seen in the past in Paris, and I would love to go check out again, but not today. Today I'll squeeze in as many sites as I can, hopefully starting with a place in Paris I've only been to once before that's a little ways away from here. So time to be moving along. Time to hoof it in the City of Lights. I love how Frenchy everything looks, and I love all the bridges here. It's awesome. I also love how in 2015, the city removed all the locks from the Pont des Arts, the old famous bridge with all the little love locks on them. But that has not stopped Parisians and tourists from taking matters into their own hands and locking locks on everything else in the city and every other bridge. Because of course, famously, lovers will put their names on the locks and lock them here to lock in the love forever. And this right here just goes to show you can't stop love. Ah, Paris. Who doesn't love it? And who doesn't love love? Every time I walk anywhere near the Seine and see these like causeways along the sides, all I can think of is Jean Valjean and Inspector Javert. Les Miserables. All right, I'm getting distracted. Time to get away from the river and head to a different part of the city, which you can see way off in the distance down that road over there, way up high on the hills, and change our perspective a little bit. Let's see, train? Nah, Uber. Whew. Oh my gosh, it was so hot in that Uber that the windows were steaming up. But I'm out of the Uber now and back on my feet, only to get knocked off my feet by maybe the greatest view in Paris. We're back in Montmartre, and look at that. You can see the whole world from up here. Up behind me at the top of the steps is the world-famous Sacré-Cœur Basilica. And down below, spread out all before us in panorama, is the city of Paris. Wow. C'est bon. C'est très bon. Look at that. Look at the size of that city out there. It is massive. When you're down there in like the core of Paris and you know, down in the streets, it feels sort of claustrophobic. Those tall stone buildings really hem you in and you don't get a sense of how huge the city of Paris and the French capital really are. The Eiffel Tower, sadly, out of view this way, so it would be behind those buildings, but Les Invalides, which is Napoleon's tomb, is over here. The Louvre is somewhere over in this direction, somewhere over here, and then Notre Dame, oh, it's like straight out in front of us, actually. I can see it. Very hard to spot from up here, but it's dead ahead. So the Eiffel here, Notre Dame here, those things are actually very far apart. So if you've ever walked that and then come up here, you get a sense of just how massive this place is. The rich, the famous, the fashionable, and old Joe Blow have all been drawn up to these hills for years. There's pictures of Audrey Hepburn up here, pretty much actually any celebrity you can possibly think of. And that's because Montmartre was famously for decades sort of the bohemian heart of Paris. Ooh, side note, look at that. Knockoff bags down there. Sick merch. This whole neighborhood up here was actually its own separate village. It wasn't part of Paris until the 19th century, after the French Revolution, when the city finally absorbed it. It's always sort of been a little bit apart from the city. There was a place for pagan worship, and then there were abbeys up here. And obviously, owing to its high position perched up here on this hill, it's just a little bit set apart. Oh, see how a second ago there were all those guys selling little Eiffel Towers and souvenirs on blankets over here and the knockoff merch? Now I know why they're on blankets. I saw a cop come down and they all scooped up their stuff and disappeared. And all the times I've been to France, I've never seen that before. That was new. Up, and now the police officer's gone and the merchants are back. It happens just that quick. Now, as you see over there is an incline railway on which you can get up to the top of the hill up here. But for the bold and the crazy, next to the funicular or the incline railway are the 220 odd steps you can climb to get up here. But I did that last time I was in Paris, so I'm gonna spare my lungs this time. By the way, when you get to the top of the steps up here, there are a lot of different kinds of hustles going. Keep your wits about you. Don't buy anything. Don't sign anything. Watch your valuables up here, because there are pickpockets all over the city, but mostly only in the very touristy areas like this. And it's crazy because like the scam artists, they are good. They can look at you, take one look, and they will speak to you in your language. Like they know. Okay, real quick before I move on. This is one of my favorite things. I saw this last time, but I can't help coming and looking at it again. Right when you climb up that last flight of steps to Sacré-Cœur. Look off to your right. See that house? If you turn your camera and zoom in, it's the famous sinking house of Paris. Sick. All right, let's get away from these steps before somebody takes my passport and I get stuck in France forever. I love it up here because Montmartre has a different feel than the rest of Paris. I don't know firsthand, but I've been told it feels a lot more like villages out in the country. I'm assuming minus all the touristy stuff, but even that helps with the atmosphere. I mean, this is the only place in the city I've seen somebody playing an accordion. Well, except next to Notre Dame several years back. Ah, Paris. I guess it just feels more stereotypically French. I don't know. What I'm trying to say is it's got a lot of the stuff you want to see as a tourist in France, all stuffed into one spot. Everything from the old Paris drinking fountains over here. Oh, that's right, before you had tap water in your house, they'd have these fountains throughout the city with water coming down. You could just fill up your jug. To more modern stuff, like over here, we've got a little bit, nope, make that a lot of bit, of street art. I love the Space Invaders, but I particularly love these weird monkey heads sticking out over here. Weird. Actually, speaking of art of all kinds, Montmartre is the spot if you want to take something home with you. Not just prints and tourist souvenirs, which can be found in high quantities up here, but also just a few feet away from Sacré-Cœur is the Place du Tertre. How am I doing on my French pronunciation there, guys? This square over here is full of guys actually painting out in the open air, or should I say en plein air, and they're doing little miniature, portable, tourist-size oil paintings out here live right in front of you. Everything from landscapes to modern art. And perhaps more famously, they will paint or draw your portrait right here as you wait. This is like one of my favorite spots in the city to see this kind of thing. Other than over by Notre Dame, you got guys painting alongside the river, usually painting the cathedral. But here you can find a lot more guys wedged into one small area. A lot easier to find something small, packable in your suitcase, and to your taste. And know that it was actually live painted in Paris by a human being, where if you get one from a shop, you're not quite sure where it came from, you know what I mean? Anyway, like I was saying, this place fascinates me, and I just wanted to stand here and stare at the painters for hours, but it's kind of touchy filming up here, pointing a camera around, because they don't want you taking pictures of the painting and then printing one out for yourself. It makes it a little awkward to show all you folks at home, but there's some rad stuff here. Like I said, everything from landscapes to sort of impressionistic looking things to wild, modern, crazy art. Hopefully you can see some of it kind of in the background. There are portraits over here, paintings of models, paintings of the Eiffel Tower, and they're cranking out new ones every second. This neighborhood has a long art history, actually. Renoir, Picasso, Degas, many French artists and poets and bohemians and beatniks have all been drawn to Montmartre to practice their art, to sell their art, to hang out and be edgy up here, I guess. Many of the cafes here are very famous, and as you can see, it's very picturesque up here. Look at this. There's a guy painting or drawing somebody's portrait as we speak. I love that you can come up here and buy yourself an authentic little tiny oil painting from France. You can sit out here at the cafe, have a drink, smoke some French cigarettes like Walt Disney used to do, listen to the saxophone music in the background, or the jazz, or the accordion music from time to time, and watch people paint. I did just buy one small painting, for Allie of course, from an artist over here whose passion is hyper-realistic stuff. You can see his contact info right there. But of course, pays the bills to do these impressionistic style paintings for the tourists like me. And Steven Spielberg looks impressed too. Like I told the guy, hey, it makes me happy. This is awesome because he even told me where he painted it so I could go and see the exact sort of matching spot from my painting to the real Montmartre. Look at this. I love all the little weird ancient little details. Well, ancient to somebody from California. I even love seeing all the little tourist shops with all the little knickknacks and paddywhacks, but it's the architectural stuff, like the little stone stairways and the old posters here in the windows, and all the doors and stoops and little outdoor vending areas. Oh, and of course, the awnings, the cafes, the cobblestone streets. I love going to a place where you can see layers of history and use. And I don't even mean all just the ancient history, but even the modern history. There's so much street art out here. I wonder what old Vincent van Gogh would have thought of art like this on the walls if he could have stepped into the future. I wonder if he would have loved it and wanted to try his hand at it, or if he would have been like, this is art. I like it. I love that there's a mix of all this new stuff spread around in the old classics hometown or home neighborhood. It's very avant-garde, and I think the old artists and bohemians would have appreciated that. This is what I love when I get to travel, especially overseas, because we got a lot to see in Southern California, but nothing to see that looks anything like that. Downtown Fullerton, eat your heart out. Look at the cute little restaurants back here, and then Starbucks. Ooh, they must get a lot of British and American tourists over here because they have the menu written in English as well. And look at that, you got escargot and frog legs. It's actually not nearly as weird as it sounds. I've actually had frog legs back in the day before the celiac disease hit me. But of course that was in America, in Louisiana, which of course was once French territory. But I must tell you, standing out here today, I feel pretty far from Louisiana. Oh, my old friend, Vinchard. Hot wine, Vinchad as I like to call it. It's cold enough for it. Do I dare? Well, sacre bleu, I think I do. When in Rome, or Paris. Oh man, they've got it everywhere out here. I was worried it was just a Christmas thing, but no. In France, the wine is everywhere. Actually, I think it's better to keep a clear head this early in the morning. A little too early for an American to be drinking Vinchad, so I got myself this tiny little Coke Zero. Aww. I'm drinking it a little bit like a hobo in this doorway over here because it's freezing cold up here. Now, being so high up, the wind, the cold wind just comes right across the city and bam, up here against the hill. I actually avoided this whole neighborhood the first couple times I came to France just because it is so, I don't know, touristy, college girls, go to Montmartre kind of thing, but it's touristy for a reason. It's cute. And not even just cute. I would say genuinely enchanting. I see the attraction big time. Look at that, there's the old reservoir that supplied Montmartre's drinking water. That's pretty cool. And if we're looking for historic infrastructure, and this perfectly ties into the art theme today, then we can't do better than checking out Montmartre's 2 surviving windmills. There used to be tons of windmills up here, which at the moment makes perfect sense given how windy it is up here right now. And look at that one down there. That's one of 2 surviving ones up on this hill. This one is the Moulin Rouge, built in 1717, I think, which if I'm not mistaken was moved up here in the 1920s from down the street. And then just down the hill, well, down the street and up the hill is the Moulin Rouge, which I believe is the only functioning windmill left in Paris, dating all the way back from the 1620s, if I remember correctly. I'm gonna see if I can get around to the other side of that one. Oh, it's cold. You can't really see it too much clearly from over here, but at least I tried. Van Gogh famously painted the windmills up here, including, I believe, those 2, which is pretty mind-blowing to me. I mean, I wonder what my teacher, Miss St. Clair, would think. She was my 4th grade teacher who loved French art and hated me. But what would she say now, huh? See, I didn't end up in prison. I ended up in France, freezing my pants off. Wow, look at these cute little houses. I've never seen houses like this in Paris before. Cute. Moulin, by the way, just means mill. So like Moulin Rouge is red mill for the red windmill on top. And the windmills up here are the reason why you see so many buildings with the word Moulin on the title. In fact, the world famous Moulin Rouge is just down the hill on the other side of Sacré-Cœur from where we are now. But you want to talk about touristy. Plus we went that way last time, so I'm going a different direction today, trying to head towards a place I've never been before, and I keep getting lost, but it's kind of fun in a city like Paris to get lost for a little while anyway, because you never know what you're gonna find. Like this, the famous Le Vape shop. Love the benches and trash cans and the little tree things. The fact that there's so much art and style even to things like this, to the iron bars on the windows and the street posts. I love seeing all the little markets out here, and you can't smell it, but it smells like cigarettes. Everybody's smoking out here, which for some reason is just what I expect in France. Whoa! Gotta watch out for those almost silent buses, man. They creep up on you quick. Okay, this is what I was looking for right here. Behind this wall is something awesome. Montmartre's cemetery is down there, and I'm not quite sure how to get down to it, but there's gotta be a way somewhere. Okay, I see. Look at this. There's a little stairway down here off the main road. And look at this little knick-knack shop right here. Look at all this old French stuff. Weird. Ooh, a French elephant. We saw Babar. Ooh, this is awesome. Look at this place already. There's a bigger, crazier, more famous cemetery called Père Lachaise. That's where, among others, Jim Morrison is buried. Allie and I went there once. That place was truly wild, so if this looks even 1/10 as crazy to my American eye, should be pretty interesting. Whoa. I am not disappointed. Wow. This place is absolutely wild looking to me. I mean, they go at it hard in France. All French cemeteries look full on vampire status. But I mean, this is a heck of a way to be memorialized. Look at that. It's a lot better than most American cemeteries these days. It's a little flat tombstones, boring. I always say after my death, I want to be put in an above ground crypt like this. And you can bury me for a while and let all the flesh go away, leave just the bones, then put it in the above ground crypt. Here, kitty, oh. And then once a year, open it up so people can come see my bones on display. And bonus points if whoever's in charge after I'm dead makes my bones animatronic, so I can speak from beyond the grave. I'm not sure if these people knew what was going to happen to them after they died, but personally, I'd love to be a tourist attraction. At least I'd get visitors. Holy cow. Sacre bleu. Look at that. We don't have anything like that in America, except maybe the cemeteries in Louisiana, which of course were French inspired. These crypts are incredible. Man. Just watch out though, because when these crypt doors creak and the tombstones quake, the spooks could come out for a swing and wake. So strange, the ones that have no doors anymore. You can see the names there, and in Père Lachaise, we noticed a lot of them were broken. There were even some graves that were so far open, you could actually see bones sticking out. I am not kidding. That was a wild day. We weren't filming that day. Probably should have been. All I can think is of all the American goths, all my goth friends in America who love cemeteries would have an absolute field day with this place. They could take some unfun pics, ghoulish pics. Anyway, there are some very famous graves in this cemetery. I am completely lost though. I have no idea where I am. It's absolutely labyrinthian. I don't even remember what I was looking for anymore. I'm just blown away by all of this. The weird thing is I was told it was pretty busy and touristy in here, but I gotta say, it looks pretty dead to me. Man, it's beautiful. Sad, but beautiful. Sad that all these folks are dead now. Whenever I come to big cemeteries, I just think of all the names, and I try to remember these were real people. I wonder what they dreamed of, what they hoped for, how much of their bucket list did they complete in their lives, who loved them. Does anybody remember them 100, 200 years later? And where are their families now, you know? Look at this. We know where their descendants end up. In outer space! Some of the designs are out of control. Look at this guy. Oh, don't worry, he's just sleeping. Okay, I found a map, which is very helpful because it turns out this cemetery is vast. Look at the size of it. And as much as I like hanging out here, I didn't want to be lost here forever. It's not my time yet, I hope. Among the famous graves out here, including Alexander Dumas' illegitimate son, there's one in particular I thought would be very interesting to visit because I've never thought about it before. Somewhere over in this area is the grave of the inventor of the saxophone. Look at that! Adolphe Sax. This is his family crypt right in front of us. I have never thought about it before. Somebody had to invent the saxophone. And I wonder, did this Belgian-born inventor know that his instrument would absolutely change music, especially out here in Paris? Jazz was a mind-blowingly big deal in Paris, of course. What a crazy thing to see. The last resting place of the inventor of the saxophone. Weird. All right, I hate to skip out of here before seeing more famous graves, but ooh, look, Kitty. Hi, Kitty. Don't let me disturb you. Oh, he disappeared. Now he disappeared. Ghost cat. Seriously, where'd he go? Anyway, I hate to skip out before checking out more graves, but this is weirdly eating up a lot more time than I thought it would. I mean, look at these people. They came here and never managed to leave. So I think we're gonna head up on out of here before the grave starts calling us. Gotta be moving on to our next destination, so we don't move on to the next life. All right, well, we've come down out of the hills now, out of Montmartre proper. And as you can see, it's geared a little more towards tourists over here, thus the hot dogs over there, which makes sense when you realize we're at Nicole Kidman's favorite Paris hangout, the famous Moulin Rouge. I guess I just couldn't leave the neighborhood without seeing Paris's most famous windmill, after all. Well, what are you gonna do? Anyway, now my time in the city today is drawing near to a close, so we don't have time to go in and see them doing the can over here, but we do have time for hopefully at least one more stop. And here it is, the world famous Notre Dame Cathedral. Just look at that. Notre Dame, of course, famously caught fire in 2019, right between two of my visits to Paris. So I had just been inside when we saw it burning online. Luckily, it looks like reconstruction work is well underway now over here. Whew, seeing that makes you realize it's gonna be a long time till we're gonna be able to go back in there. It was definitely very beautiful inside of Notre Dame when I got to go in there. I would say the Sainte-Chapelle is even more beautiful, which is another chapel very, very nearby that I filmed before. Something about the sheer grandeur and splendor and spectacle of Notre Dame was indeed very special. The whole roof back there needs to be reconstructed. That's why you can't see the giant spire on it. It all burned up. Pretty wild. Hopefully Quasimodo got out okay and got out in time. It's always been one of my favorite spots to visit in Paris, both for the views of the cathedral and also over here on the left bank. You've got all the little shops along the river, the little kiosks and these green metal boxes over here. Man, look at that view right there. Unbeatable. Anyway, they have fake versions of these in Epcot's version of France. I was over there about, what, a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, looking at the fake versions and thinking, I miss the real version, seeing all the art and souvenirs and books and all the weird old French magazines. Some of them are so beautiful. Normally out here behind the cathedral, on this bridge back here, you would see dozens of artists and easels out, and they'd be painting it, selling the paintings to tourists. I should have bought one back in 2018 before the cathedral burned, because I guess nobody wants to paint a crane because they're all gone now. I love this side of Paris over the river over here. I believe it's the left bank because it's got a lot of the older, skinnier, more off-kilter buildings. Like, look at some of the ones down that alley over there, that little street. Or the one over here on the right. That is wild. Looks like something out of a Pixar movie like Ratatouille. It doesn't even look real. If I ever had to stay in Paris for a long time or got to live here or rent an apartment for a month or something, I'd want it to be right over here. I love that view of the cathedral and the river over here. Something about all the little kiosks and then the buildings. And in fact, the whole neighborhood back there, like Saint-Germain or whatever, it's all awesome looking. Something about it. Between the two of us, Allie is really the big time Paris lover. She loves this city. I like to visit. Most of it I wouldn't want to live in. In fact, my Uber driver over here was even telling me he hates living here. He wants to live somewhere with new buildings. But I must tell you, this neighborhood over here tantalizes me. Look at this. They have some old kids' books and comic books over here. And this just proves you can't go anywhere in the world without seeing Mickey. Oh my gosh, I can't believe it's Babar. I really was not actually expecting to see Babar. Looking at the cathedral. Stepping across the street over here for a closer look. I just love it because it's the one place in Paris you're pretty much guaranteed to get rad pictures of old looking buildings. Just can't get enough of the little storefronts on the buildings and the narrow streets. In fact, the skinniest street in Paris, or the narrowest street, is over this way if I recall. It's been years since I filmed it and it certainly wasn't in 4K. So let's go see if I can find it again. Ah, sup dog. Many of the buildings over here, unlike in the Champs Elysées or over by the Eiffel Tower, date way back. Some of them have basements with Roman-era foundations and medieval timbers and stuff. And while my Uber driver may prefer newer buildings, and I see where he's coming from, especially as an Uber driver driving around all these narrow, old, crooked streets. Like I say, coming from Southern California, as I do, where everything is pretty much new, in Paris terms anyways, seeing Roman ruins and touching pieces of medieval cathedrals is awesome. This is a total sidetrack, but how cute is this little garden over here? With all the old pieces of ancient churches in it. I love that. It's always fascinating being in the more patchwork quilt-like neighborhoods of Paris. I love when you can see the old stones and use Google Translate to read some of the history out here. And I really love streets like this. Look at the Rue Galande. Look at the way those buildings bow out like a cartoon. Epic. I believe this, technically where we are now, is called the Latin Quarter. Look at another church with spires and stained glass and gargoyles everywhere. It's certainly not just Notre Dame with gargoyles. Look at those things. Spooky. Lots of sick hats and merch. Look at this, falafel, pita. And look at this, just down the street a little, by the front of this church. You can even find yourself some escargot. Oh my gosh, the streets are so skinny. Ah, here comes a taxi. And a bike. Look at how tiny the little streets are. It's wild. Oh, it smells so good over here. I wish there were some gluten-free heroes around. All I can think whenever I come to France is that Johnny Depp used to live here. In fact, I think he's here now. Oh my gosh, Johnny Depp? I did not hit her, I did not. Oh, hi, Mark. That was not something I was expecting to see. Not talking about the minivan, I mean the Pirates candies over here. Ooh, look at this. See, this would be my neighborhood over here, and I could get English books just around the corner. Yeah, dude. The Latin Quarter, Saint-Germain, or Germain, however you say it, this is the jam, and I love it, even though it gives me the crepes. Don't worry, though. That's normal. Wait a minute. This time I've gone too far. Literally, I passed the street I was looking for. Pretty sure it's back this way. I got distracted by Johnny Depp. Yes. Now we're back on track. Again, look at the crazy shapes of the buildings and the way they bow out like that. You can see just how narrow this street is, much less the one we're coming up on. Ooh, a chicken spot. Let's see, if only there was a place I could find some couscous. Oh well, maybe next time. Getting closer, yes. This is the way I remember now. Here it is, just over here. This is just what we were looking for. Rue du Chat Capeche. The street of the fishing cat. Considered the narrowest street in Paris, especially down there. See where the building's kind of bowing out? Check it out. Look at this. I can touch it side to side, and I'm not even extending my arms all the way. Yes! If I was good at parkour, I could scramble all the way up this thing. It's been a long dang time since I was in this little street. I'm glad I found it again, and it's right next to another famous Paris landmark. One that's particularly famous with tourists, and I'm not even talking about Saint-Chapelle and all the stuff over there across the river. If we come out of that little baby street and hook a right, we actually pass by taking the back streets, a very famous spot for tourists and hipster girls, the one and only Shakespeare and Company bookstore. Dude, it's famous the world over. It's got its own podcast according to that little sign over there. Pretty pretty darn wild. I've never been inside because there's always a line of people waiting to get in. I'm sure the locals would probably tell you there are better and bigger bookstores, you know, in this giant city. But just like the antique books inside, there's something about the classics. And people in a literary mood will come to the Shakespeare and Company Cafe, maybe play chess on the little table in front of the bookstore, mingle with the crowd, feel very urbane and metropolitan and cosmopolitan and world globe trotting, you know, all of the things. Neato, gang. And just in case you think I'm making fun of it, I'm not. I wanted to get inside, but again, there's always a line. And if I'm gonna stand in line, it's gonna be at Disneyland. Anyway, okay, I wanna hang out in this neighborhood all day. I'd like to stay over in this area of Paris sometime, but I've got to be pushing on. I haven't got the text yet from my friends to meet up with them today, but I know it's coming. So goodbye, Notre Dame. A bientôt. A demain. Au revoir. Or as the French say, see you later. All right, we're gonna go down this way a ways. Then we're gonna have to change the left bank for the right bank after we pass this island and get back over into the heart of Paris. Oh, Mona Lisa, what have they done to you? But I managed to do it eventually. And over the Pont des Arts, no less. This is that old famous wooden bridge where all the locks used to be, but as you can see now, it's all glass. Well, except for these. Paris beat Paris. Well, this adventure has just kept on going and going, mostly because this walk has kept on going and going. Behind me, of course, is the Louvre, home of the Mona Lisa, among many other world art treasures here. We've been in there many times before, but I do hope to see the Mona Lisa again someday. I was just watching out front some of the little tiny Eiffel Tower sellers and little merch hawkers out here, and I noticed something I didn't notice up at Montmartre, which was a cop was coming way inside of here, and they had a lookout who just started yelling something like a code word, and they all scooped up their stuff really quick. They're still standing over there just waiting for the all clear. So weird. Anyway, friends, I have no idea what's about to happen next. Will I do more in France? I sure hope so. Will I see more in France? I really hope so. But I honestly, at this point, have no way of knowing. So you may see me back here in France. You may see me back in America. That's the thing about Random Land. You never know what's gonna happen next. Please do me a favor. If you like these adventures, go over to randomland.com or check out the links in the description. Consider becoming a member. There's so much other stuff to see. As for me, for the moment, I'll be chilling here in Paris. But you, my friends, have done your duty. You can go home and bien dormir. I mean, sleep well. What a fun pic. I'm gonna send that one to Grandma. Beshaba. My brain is in French. Ah, sup, dog? Look at that, there's books everywhere. You don't need to wait in any line. Ooh, astrology. I even see books about Argentina. Barbara Cartland. Just so you know how dumb I am, in the beginning of this video I said it was in January. It's the first week of February. I'm so dumb I don't even know what month it is. Why don't I have any pants? Could be worse. You could be missing an arm and falling off a horse with no foot. Hey, I'm not a horse.
Champs Elysées. Champs Elysées. I walked 20 miles. My feet really hurt. My legs are sore. My brain is burst. I need to hotel and sleep well on the Champs Elysées.